Even in those areas of the world where the church is surging ahead, it's doing so under increasingly difficult circumstances.
من مستوى يعني من أبسط الأشياء لأعلى الأشياء بيوصل فصعب منا هين الباك جراوند كخلفيته مش كعيلة بس
يعني ما فيك تشيله وتحكي على شيء بحياتك كله فايت بعض. اوكي وين رايح، شو عملت بلبنان، كيف تعرفتوا على بعض، ما بيسألك اشياء يعني كتير دقيقة كيف بدك تجاوب.
But the church is advancing around the world in most of the places that you or I could point to on a map.
I kid you not, I can do what I'm doing for 2 lifetimes and I won't get everything done.
Most of our schools, they need help, not just financially, but to feel that we are not left alone.
I tend to wake up at night and be thinking, God, is it going to happen? Are we going to get enough help? Are we going to make it?
You know, Overseas Council works in 70 countries with 130 different partner seminaries. Overseas Council has an influence that extends to thousands and tens of thousands of individuals.
They made a difference in my life. Not just me, but in my school. Not just my school, but in my region.
We love to talk about the work of Overseas Council with 3 words: called, trained, and multiplied. We don't call anybody ourselves, I'm happy to say. God is the one who calls people.
Scholarships enables those whom God calls to take that next step of being better equipped in His service.
And so scholarships become really, really important to help these men and women in ministry.
Which opens the doors for many students to join the seminaries and to fulfill their call for God's kingdom.
Without trying to add too much salt and pepper, really, if OC had not come through, I'd have been kicked out of class.
And then you see Anthony as an individual, but how many has this guy influenced? Hundreds and hundreds. And yet, but the investment was just in one person.
It's that trained one in the middle where Overseas Council's pulse really begins to quicken. We call this tool the Institute for Excellence in Christian Leadership Development. I love it because it's effective.
So we come alongside them through the Institutes for Excellence to help them think how to be more effective in ministry.
The first thing I learned was that I was not alone, and almost everybody had the same situation.
So the institutes have become a very critical part in the Ministry of Overseas Council.
For me personally, to participate in these institutes were so helpful for me. It changed my life.
These are questions and needs that those seminary leaders are asking for help.
Everybody I called would ask me, when are we going to have the next institute? When are we going to have the next institute? Because it is empowering.
The challenges we have ahead of us are not things that we can tackle ourselves. We can't.
They feel underprepared to be the president.
What we got from the Institute got us to a point where we were not before. And when we see it, we say, wow, we are worth something.
We talk about called, trained, and multiplied. The third word that is so important to us at Overseas Council is multiplied.
Imagine we have hundreds of leaders in the areas in the desert where there is no theological education, no structured church.
These are people who, for reasons of religious prejudice and the difficult situations they live in the Middle East and North Africa, will never walk through the door of one of the Christian seminaries of that region.
The whole seminary is at risk if you enroll a person from a Muslim background.
We call it TEACH. It stands for Theological Education for Arab Christians at Home. Overseas Council has been at the core of this, orchestrating and encouraging and funding the development of the TEACH program.
You're taking the expertise of the few and giving it to the many.
And so we've worked with our partners in the region to create a purpose-built online delivery system.
And it can happen while keeping the identity of the other person secure.
You can have theological education in your home without anybody interfering or monitoring or controlling what you are learning.
All of this combined into the deeply Christian, deeply Arab curriculum for leadership development.
It will reach the unreached Middle East world. Teach will be the resource for them.
Well, I think our task is to continue to do the work of Jesus, who in a moment where he was founding that new humanity, giving birth to that church, invested his time in 12 leaders.
We owe what we are doing to Overseas Council, and the Overseas Council story also needs to be told.
And Overseas Council has been given an extraordinary opportunity to insert itself into that and to be part of the action, part of the drama.
You would be amazed to see how God is blessing what we are doing here.
Whom God has called to himself and in whom God has invested his purpose. Leaders who will outlast us, leaders who will outshine us, leaders who will go on and do things that we in our generation can't even imagine doing.